I just really wanted it to start with me going, ah. That was, yeah.
It's alive. Okay. We have pretty much everyone. I have Al's proxy, so I think we're ready to roll. So thanks everyone for joining on short notice. But I think we have, I think Neil, you've kind of been referring back to the Google Doc. Do we want to pull that up and utilize that as maybe the fulcrum of this conversation?
I mean, that's what my assumption was. Like the next meeting of leadership board will be focused on those issues, and then we'll pick one of those to like define the scope of leadership board, what issues leadership board can tackle, and what it doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
I think we can keep it like 30 minutes quick, and just pick up like a couple of those issues, and then see what is the plan of next uh, action item or something.
Perfect. All right. Find said document. Neil, do you have easy access to it?
Yeah, let me get it.
Back here in the channel somewhere.
We put it in the channel, did we not?
Um,
Oh, random good news. Oh, here we go. I found it.
Awesome.
Random good news, everybody. Oh, it's Durham beat me. um, Slack got back to me today and has certified us as a education-related Slack org, which means that we get 85% off our Slack subscription,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
which is awesome because I'm spending like several $100s a month on our Slack. I'm like,
Let
this
us
is
do that.
a
I
big
remember,
part of our entire thing.
That's
yeah.
all.
So, yay,
So
that's exciting news.
most of the startups do that, yeah.
Well, they're definitely, well, maybe startups count as non-profits, but we got it as an education one.
We got from Gate Satisfaction, like we were building these Drupal forums for Eterna, and they were like so ugly. And then we just reached out to these guys, and they said, "Oh, just write in the bottom that's sponsored by us," and it worked out.
Anyway, uh, I'm sorry for derailing this. I just wanted to share that I was happy about that. It's it's good.
It's the little things of life.
Yes.
All right. So we give it out Neil hats. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So that was I made an example. Also, I made some fun usernames. So check them out. Um, okay. So just as a reminder, and this is a chance if you haven't filled it out, really quickly go through. Like I don't see Trigva, I don't see Allison, I don't see Jay Silver. Um, the idea was here are some decisions that someone might make, or that someone might wish to make, and the question is who should have the power to make that decision. The platform people, where we're assuming the platform is engineers, designers, researchers. Potentially, this could eventually be whatever it's going to be, a social business or a continued nonprofit or for-profit or whatever the hell Vaymo will eventually be. The people who are tasked with creating the best platform possible and paid for it, potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then the leadership board, on the other hand, being this elected group that combines those folks along with workers and requesters. So we should give out free meal hats to every worker. Rajan the math guy, R. Morina, and Mishkva, the platform, and then Jay Gold, Bernsberg, and Dilrick Richmond Fuller all said leadership board. So please make your way down. Take a minute or two. Yes, I see Neil's working his way down. Trig was working his way down. Shout once you've sort of finished your pass. Our goal here is just to see whether there's actually already consensus on some things. Because if there is, then I think what we can start to do is try to delineate why we seem to have consensus on these things and like where we seem to be drawing the line. Say something out loud when you're done, by the way, so we know.
Oh, oh. I think I'm at the end of this now. Yeah.
And Trigva, you're making your way through, right?
Yeah, but I'm for all intents and purposes, I am. Oh,
All right. So here's my suggestion. We can ignore it, but just a suggestion. What I would like to suggest we do is take the ones in which there is sort of a dominant consensus already and move them all up to one place, and the ones that are sort of not all agreed upon and move them down to another place, um, just so we can focus on the places where we do agree first. Are you all cool with that?
with that.
All right. So
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
Good.
So I'm going to make a heading here for agreements platform, and another heading for agreements leadership board. La, la, la. And then another one for disagreements. Okay. Looks like Neil, I see your point, but for the moment, I'm putting this largely on the platform side. It seems to be largely. Neil, I see you have some sort of bicameral structure in mind, which is totally cool by me. I'm just sort of going with the, as long as you're not strongly disagreeing. All right, so that's leadership board. This one seems to have some disagreements. I don't know. What should we call disagreement? We have one on 4. Is that agreement or disagreement?
I guess it depends on the votes of others because we have 7 people, right? So if we have like one more on board, then I guess it's an agreement. Otherwise, it's 2 tied, 4-3.
Well, Allison's not. Allison and Jay Silver. I saw Jay Silver briefly, but I'm not sure where he is.
I think he's on Slack, perhaps.
Yeah, he's engaging, I think, on through YouTube.
I'm aware I'm making some simplifications here, like things that some people are saying both. I'm slotting over to one. I'm not saying that. In doing that, I'm not saying that it's only that one. Just cut a high-level slot for this first. Oh, some of these got added after. All right. So if we go for sort of unanimity, or at least not strong, like not a strong disagreement, then we have 5 on platform, 3 on leadership board, and the disagreements. I feel like we're, with the exception of deciding which initial clients to offer demo to, I feel like we're actually pretty aligned on a lot of this, surprisingly so. Would you agree?
I think this kind of overlaps to when to release. And
I think the last one decided to go for profit, non-profit. I think we have an agreement on that one as well.
Well, so again, I think it depends on whether we consider a single dissenter to be worth discussing right now or not.
Okay.
Why don't we start with the things that are essentially unanimous? Because I think that they give us an easy, strong place to start with. So if I summarize the things that the platform teams seem to have very strong agreements, or the platform side seem to have very strong agreements. We're launching next week. Get rid of Boomerang and replace it with 5-star ratings. Change the color scheme to red and purple. Redesign task authorship to add a video container. Decide which payments method to use. Okay. On the leadership board side, changing the platform fee. Getting a specific instance where a worker deserves to get paid even though it was bad work. Must pay, so a policy decision that requesters must pay workers for prototype tasks no matter what the quality is, and setting the minimum wage.
I think that what we agree on is that the leadership board solves disputes, and general and major changes are decided by the platform.
It seems like the leadership board also seems, I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's essentially like financial policy. In some
Yeah.
way. I don't know, it's not exactly financial policy. It's sort of like decisions about money.
Yeah, because those tend to be like giant disputes among platform members. I don't think people would reach an agreement easily about that.
And it's not how like Demo itself uses its funds, as far as I can tell. It's about like literally what's the
one way to look at it is like leadership board has 3 sets. One set is platform. There is intersection between platform and workers, and intersection between workers and requesters and platform people, right? So we have to think about what are the issues that will require multidisciplinary perspective and to generate the solid solution, right? So most of the issues related to workers' payments and related to policy naturally should fall under the leadership board, and at that time platform people who are part of the leadership board can argue whether it is technically feasible or not feasible to implement those changes, enforce those policies. For example, raising fees for 20%, right? Why we are raising fees? Is it because we need more engineers? Is it because we cannot run our operations? Is it because we need to do like set up new research lab and do more R&D and build like more stuff that will require us to hire more people and pay them more? So from platform side, there should be somebody who can communicate that to the leadership board. And then for leadership board, which has these 2 sets, workers and requesters, they can give a perspective about if these are the consequences of that, and then come up with some mutual decision where you can either decide the number, whether it's a 20%, 10%, 5%, 2%, or just rule out the decision.
So I'm gonna yes and on that. It's like if I'm trying to come up with a generic set of descriptors here. The platform side seems to cover things about like the design and feature set of Demo. And sort of product direction in some sense. That's what I interpret launching next week to mean. So let's should we look through the disagreements just to see where these things fall according to what we've just been describing? The first one is renaming to Opus Kaizen. It returns. So Neil wants to flip a coin.
I mean, some of those issues just get over it, kind of.
So there's a sort of a bicameral thing being proposed there. I'm going to make a case for platform for a moment. My initial reaction was leadership board, but if we're talking about the platform guiding product direction, design, and feature set, the name of the platform sounds like it's part of like the product direction. That to me sounds like something that is not about like policy, but, you know, of like what's okay and what's not. That's my pitch for why it should be the platform. I'm not against having some things that like need to go through both or something like that. I just don't know how to articulate which ones those would be. So maybe we keep going down to see.
Well, those design name things, I still strongly suggest that those things generate a giant discussion, that platform comes up with suggestions, then leadership board narrows down, and then platform decides from the narrowed down suggestions. Otherwise, we are going to have like, oh, let's remake color. We are going to have 30 different sets. People are not going to agree on anything. So I think those should be like a hybrid model, all those design and name decisions.
Well, so let me probe that a little bit more. Why would we have more of that than if the platforms just made a decision and executed it?
No, I think this model works very well. We can do more things with that apart from design and name.
So
I think one thing will happen there is even platform, let's name, platform is going to conduct the survey to ask workers and requesters about what do they feel, because platform people are not just going to come up and say, oh, this is the name and we're going with that. Let's say we have a big team of 100 people, and 100 people go to like a ranking site and they put their own choices, and then we decide, okay, I'll select. So the next question is like, who is going to select it about from the top 10? So one thing could be the members who are representing from platform side to the leadership board, they decide and ignore the rest of the leadership board, so that there is a structure and there are representatives of the platform who are making the decision on the behalf of 100 people. We say, anyways, we are conducting the survey with the marketplace, with the requesters and worker. Let's get input from representative of worker and representative of requester, and let's vote about it.
Well, so what if we probe the following way? So I think the next disagreement point is interesting. This, can workers be anonymous? It's interesting because it has elements of both. Like my first gut reaction is that it's a policy question, but it's also a design question, right? Like if I'm anonymous, it impacts a lot of the design of the platform. So this, like in many ways, does seem like one that has elements of both policy and sort of product design to it.
Yes, I do agree on that. But counter agreement on that is, so leadership board, we are thinking it does have elements from platform, right? Let's say
Of course.
60% people are from platform. So those people should be able to voice their opinions about these issues, influencing the design.
So I agree with that. My main challenge that I'm struggling with is actually slightly different. It's that I was trying to generalize our existing agreements, and what I had basically said was that it seemed like the leadership board stuff was typically sort of policy oriented. It was disputes, decisions about money between workers and requesters, and platform policy. And then the platform was doing design, product direction, that kind of stuff. And this thing about anonymity seems to actually have components of both. So I'm feeling a little stuck about how exactly. So if we were to draft a constitution that said leadership board covers policy, financial stuff, and between workers and requesters, and what was the third one? And disputes. Then then I feel like it does not make a clean cut on this.
Because wouldn't there be some technical reasons to not have an anonymity, to provide a social security number? That would be a technical variant of this question versus anonymity that if you are a requester, you're not a private leopard, you are Neil. Or if you're engaging with someone, you're not Lonesome Dove, you're Trigva.
Yeah, I can see both arguments here. I could imagine like a requester or a workers making a very strong policy-oriented thing, that this is like a policy question, that we need anonymity to keep workers safe, et cetera, et cetera. But then I could also see a very strong design claim where platform side can basically say, look, it's not a question of policy. This is about like the interactions we want to design for on the platform. We want more, like, someone could argue we think we'll get more open and honest profiles if there are real names used. Maybe we need some sort of arbitration between the leadership board and the platform if it can't be.
Well, I can easily see why this cannot be the platform decision, right? Because if you're earning money in the United States, then you have to provide SSN. You cannot just, because you have to pay taxes. So there is no alternate for that, right?
Okay, so then what if it's a slightly different question? It's like workers cannot be anonymous, they must provide a...
If it is a hybrid question, I think so it's like socio-technical systems, right? Like there are social element and technical element. I think those kind of issues, maybe if we have like good representation in the leadership board, which comprise like people from platform and then people from workers and requesters, that make suggestions or can decide about it. For example, C++ committee, whether to include new collection elements into the C++ library or not, right? Like people have strong opinions about it. People have their own agendas about it. But those issues go in technical committee, and then they sit down and decide, okay, what needs to be done to target, provided we trust the expertise in the leadership board. So personally, I feel all the hybrid issues which involve these actors or people who are generating business in the platform, they can go to the leadership board.
So your proposal, if I'm going to echo it back, just to make sure I understand, is that if there is a reasonable case to be made that there is like a policy thing or something that comes under the purview of the leadership board, then that the leadership board can pull rank, basically, and say it's ours, if they wish.
But I think we're smart enough that we're going to act on the counsel and the input of the platforms.
Like if there is a question, should I use Python or JavaScript? Like leadership board have should not have any say into that, because they are not technically enough equipped to make that decision. Even leadership board comprised of...
Well, what about the decision that we're like, I'm just making up a new one now. What if the decision were, forget micro tasks, we're going to, I think the policy decision is going to be that we want to do only macro tasks from now on because that's better for workers.
Right. So again, so forget micro tasks because of technical reasons,
No.
or if you want to do macro tasks, is it feasible technically? So we need elements from workers and requesters side, because if somebody is making business decision, he need to find out what is feasible from technical perspective, plus what is feasible in the market. Like if
So
so,
who's responsible for what's feasible in the market?
so for feasibility, I mean is like, can platform sit down and analyze the business, analyze the market, and find out if you do the, when they do the case-by-case analysis of doing micro versus macro in the competitive marketplace, is it feasible or not feasible? And personally, engineering teams are good in building, in analyzing the market situations, which are very different, and they can throw marketplaces out of the business, right? So representative from customer side, whether it's requester and workers, combined with the platform side, can make wise decision in that case, rather than platform-centric decisions or customer-centric decisions. So if we can bring these two forces together, we can discuss more perspectives and hidden edge cases, rather than keeping this decision to the only one market, one entity.
And what concretely are you proposing as a mechanism there?
Yeah, so my point is like, this adding micro task or macro task not only just affect the platform, but it also affects the sustainability of the platform.
Yes.
That's going to determine what kind of workers you're going to attract, or what kind of requesters you're going to attract to the.
So given the case, who are you suggesting has the power to make that decision?
I think leadership board, because leadership board has a representative from 3 sections, like these 3 sets, right? So they bring that knowledge from to make that decision.
Okay.
If you go independently, let's subtract platform and worker side. Only requesters, they're gonna come up with their own demand. So there is no equilibrium. But if you bring these 3 forces together, you can reach to the equilibrium and make wise decision about sustainability of future.
So then, why don't we pop over to these other questions? I don't understand this next one. So I don't know what to say about it. Why don't we come back? I assume, and we've talked about in the past, that the leadership board could go create advisory committees or something like that. But presumably those would just be things that are under the power of the leadership board anyway. It feels like a sort of an ill-posed question to me. Like, just like the platform can go create teams and DRIs and things that are under its purview, I would imagine the leadership board can create subgroups as well. Decide which initial clients to offer demo to. Okay, so this one seems to have a significant split. So who is your initial client? Is that a policy question or a product question? So, Neil, if we go with what you were saying before, it seems like it's sort of a market question. According to what you were suggesting, would thus be a leadership board thing. That's the case you're making, yeah?
Yeah, I think so, because here we need people from platform who can tell what is feasible technically and what is impossible, right? And at the same time, you need workers and requesters who have good amount of experience. For example, Spam Girl can tell whether this model is going to work or not. And if she don't know, she can reach out to community of workers through these forums and get inputs from those people, or recruit new people to test out the initial kind of like market. This is market segmentation question, right? Like which segment you want to target. So I think it goes in both the ways. You need these 3 horizons.
And just to be clear, the platform group doesn't mean just technical. Like
it can be people from research, it can be people from engineering, it can be people from design. But
All right. So
More like it's if I am living in the system and if I run the user research on using my colleagues who already know about system, their inputs will, but they will never able to catch the edge cases that outsider will think about. So I think these are the issues where if you look at like user studies, other entities bring that experience which is required. It's like sometimes people who build the platform are so passionate about it, people who build the technology who are so passionate about it that they think it, but other people can show the cases where it might not work or there will be other risks involved making that decision. So it's just bringing more perspective.
and this is why, presumably, on that next one, you're also advocating leadership board for-profit, nonprofit, hybrid, etc.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think I could be swayed that way. My worry was that, like, if the okay, so here's my worry. Okay, let's say that this thing is for-profit, nonprofit, or hybrid. I don't. It doesn't really matter which for the moment. So there's some entity, some organization, right? That organization is paying, say, people on the platform side to make as amazing a platform as possible. The leadership board, many members of it are not directly like. I guess there is an incentive to like continue to make money and so on, but like the leadership. I guess my point is that like the leadership board is not the set of people who are directly impacted by that decision in the same way. So it does seem kind of weird there.
But doesn't each structure have its own policy and procedures? So if you are a for-profit, then you have this framework of rules and regulations that you have to follow. That I think under the policy structure would, I think, more naturally default to a leadership board, maybe with a nonprofit and a hybrid.
I'm going to repeat back what you said to make sure I understand. So you're saying if I'm a nonprofit, then like a leadership board is actually a more natural thing than a leadership board would be if we are a for-profit?
That's one angle, yes.
I see. I don't know what like social enterprises do.
I think other way to think about it would be if you go back with the discussion with Anand, right? So from platform, like as I said, we are passionate about something, and then we are passionate about this inequality, and we always believe like we're sympathetic towards the worker through the research article which is written about that. But one thing that we always forget, if there are no requesters, right? Like it's hard to run this as a business entity. The business entity, what I mean by business entity, there are transactions happening, you need some kind of money to run daily operations, pay the bills, either maintain your engineering systems and whatnot. So if, let's say, platform makes that decision, and platform is the people who are creating the system, right? The designers, the people who are making OpenGov structure, but how many of those have perspective from requesters? In and tell, oh, these are my needs, and this much money I can afford, like this much payment I can afford for this particular task. Let's say we have 10 categories of tasks. Who can tell us, hey, I can pay maximum $2 per worker for this task, not more than that. And getting that data or get to decide like whether it's going for profit, non-profit, or going for hybrid one, right?
Yep.
I mean, I still see that as a product question, so.
Any more?
I still see it as a product question thing, so I'll be more for platform. In the sense that platform decides what kind of clients they want, right? It's true that we will have to ask some of the requesters, but that's it. initial research that we'll do.
Yeah, so I guess the question in some sense here is where does product end and policy begin, right?
Correct.
So what other models do we have that we can use as patterns here?
So simple example will be privacy policies, right? So privacy technology is getting popularity, but if you look at like policy, like internet browser can block us, some sites cannot block us. Now, platform like site owner has a power to decide and give their users opportunity to either select some of the options or neglect those options, right? But ultimate decision is made by user. And then there is a law community which enforces, okay, every bank or every social media site needs to display this policy statement and needs to incorporate policy setting into their platform. Not made by platform. That decision is made by the law of the country or law of the community. And I think we can draw some similarities in that model, right? Like in our workers involved, platform can create some functionalities for those guys, but ultimate decisions are made by those people, not by the platform. Platform is just a provider, in my opinion.
So
So the sequence is platform exists because of workers requesters exist. Workers exist because their work exists. Work exists because there are requesters. So that's the tree that I think we need to look for.
So one way of thinking about this would be in like major companies right now, when someone is a director of product, what are they responsible for, right? Is the director of
Right.
product responsible for decisions like, that kind of policy stuff? In some cases, yes. So like I assume the director of product for Facebook's news feed is responsible for some decisions about like privacy. But they probably are not responsible for policy questions about like whether Facebook's going to expand into a new country or something like that. I would imagine.
Right.
A VP of product. If platform is VP of product, what's the equivalent on the leadership board? They're like VP of what?
So you can think about like VP of the product who reports the CEO of the company. And then every month CEO holds this meeting where he brings in leaders from all the departments and then discusses various issues with them and then makes some decisions, right? So here we have the representative of the platform. Here we have representative from the workers and requesters. So these are kind of like leaders in our ecosystem. They are coming together to make decisions about the business. So it's not just engineering decision. It's more about like marketplace decision where.
Wait, who are you advocating is doing the marketplace decision?
So in our case, we don't have like one person, like one veto person in the leadership board. What we are doing is like we are going by, okay, we have this leadership board which comprises of this interdisciplinary leadership, and they will make the decisions together. So together maybe there is voting mechanism, or there are like other mechanisms. But in the company, CEO will make that decision, right? Whether I want to go into new marketplace or not, or expand in new country or not. But all the decision he is going to make is based on inputs from leaders in his company, like VP of engineering or VP of design or VP of sales, VP of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And all those people are going to give their insights about it. Like, okay, if you expand in Latin America, your sales are going to go up by 10%. And that input can only come from the sales guys. No technical person can go and understand the market. So we need that team. So let's say we have that team in our platform, but now that team needs to go and convince other people, right? So in our community, that other people is the leadership board.
So, is there a CEO in our world?
In where?
Like, in our organization, is there anything that acts with the power of a CEO, or is it more of some sort of like bicameral structure, like a, you know, like you have the leadership board and the platform team, and there's some sort of debate between them?
I think our model is much more like we have leadership board, and which is comprised of all the entities, like all the different segments who can participate in the platform. Sorry, not in the platform, in the ecosystem.
I mean, at this point, we haven't really, we've all been of the same mind. I don't think there's been any like dogfights, at least that I've seen, maybe on the tech side there have been, that needed singular, that the arbitrary nature of the CEO. But you know, having a CEO definitely would change the dynamic of the leadership board. Would you think that you would need that vision and that guidance, Michael, of at least what a Silicon Valley CEO looks like?
I mean, I can't really. I don't have any experience in any of this.
So let's say you have a CEO, right? Like, let's take an example of Apple and Steve Jobs, like where board had enormous power to even overrule the CEO of the company. But that changed after when Google came in and the way they structure the company. So board has only advisory power. They can just give advice, suggestions, but they cannot like throw out the CEO of the company. I think in our model it's much more of like leadership model where okay you have representatives. So like C++ community, there will be director, but he's not gonna go crazy and say, oh, I like this standard and I wanna enforce that. He always gonna be sit down and consult with all the members and then define the standard. So I think we closely kind of relate to that setting. And then later you have CEO, he can go back to this leadership board as one of the consulting entity and get suggestions from them.
If we break down in the ratio that we are now, there's should be enough checks and balances there within the leadership board itself to prevent a consolidation of power.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, that's on the one end to prevent the consolidation, but at the same time, does that distribution kind of hamstring the innovation cycle? Will it make us less nimble? Because the classic example of the nimble, progressive technology company is of, you have that crusading CEO that has vision and then can make things happen.
Right.
But
I feel like you could still have that within the leadership, within the platform side. Question is whether, and maybe rightfully the policy side of things, maybe they should be more slow or deliberate. I mean, the question is, do you want the policy side of our operation to take risks, right? Like if you centralize it, if you give the platform the ability to just do stuff, or if you have a CEO or even if you elect like a prime minister, essentially, of your leadership board, if you know what I mean, you're going to end up with, you'll end up in the good and the bad way taking risks on your policy stuff. The flip side is, otherwise your policy stuff is going to be slow, maybe not track market stuff. You know, like it's gonna be reactive rather than planning.
I mean, the size will dictate how nimble we can be. I mean, at this phase, since we're building the foundation, we're building the Constitution. It's almost like the Constitutional Convention. You know, I think I'm thinking about, okay, I'm taking a little bit of the rapid prototyping concept, marrying it with some of, we talked about a bicameral approach, but some of the checks and balances, and ensuring that, that as we scale out, we have rules and policies in place that can expand with us. Once all those are in place, then what do we do? Are we merely the caretakers or the administrators of those policies, or can we start shifting some emphasis now into some other elements? Can we start looking at, some of the marketing elements, some of the, some of our competitive analysis, start looking at the innovation cycle. What are the next products? Almost working in conjunction, or starting to generate and fuel ideas that we send on over to the platform team.
Yeah, I mean, I think
those are some of the unknowns.
If we can come up with at least a sort of Articles of Confederation, and what I mean is in some sense a prototype, like that we might later revise, like our Constitution sort of working paper, then I think we can and should start talking about that kind of stuff.
Agreed.
So, mindful of the time, my question is, maybe what we should do is sort of circulate this proposed split. I think Neil has convinced me that of the things that are currently disagreements, many of them could go to leadership board. That is, if there's a policy, a serious policy side to it, the leadership board can sort of pull rank. Otherwise, the platform can just sort of assume that it has responsibility. I feel like what we should do is circulate this amongst our crowd in the OpGov channel and elsewhere for feedback, and then sort of move forward, starting with our next meeting.
Yeah. Let's embrace the transparency, and so is the purpose then to share the critical engagement, thumbs up, thumbs down? You want to drop it on the Meteor and have people start voting? What sort of mechanism do we want to engage?
My inclination would be, I mean, Trygve, if you're willing to, maybe either putting at the top of this doc or writing a Slack note that sort of summarizes the setup that's being proposed.
Yeah.
In a short paragraph or 2 short paragraphs. And then have a space there where it says comments and feedback go here. And then there can be discussion in the channel, comments can go in the doc, and then it's sort of will get ratified or revised the next time we, not Twain, but we 7 Twain shall meet.
Yeah. Should we open it up that folks can add additional asks to the list?
What do you mean asks?
Asks. So we throw it out to the crowd, and they're like, well, the leadership board should also do this, this, and this, and we think that the platform team should be doing this, that, and the other. Just to add to the scope.
So that's why I think you want a comment section somewhere where it's like, feedback here, ideas go here, make it more better.
Perfect. All right, done. All right, so I'll take that on as secretary, and I'll run it by you guys. You guys can just take a look at it, make sure it's all up to speed, and then we'll drop it on the world.
Cool. And then we can also target like Slack conversations towards the document or towards Métier submissions. Of course, like there is always scope for existence of leadership board. It should exist, not exist, all those things. But the focus can be on these issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be important given. I think it's important to say we are currently prototyping. Our current leadership structure is to have an elected leadership board. Like, we're not really discussing currently whether other structures would be better. We're only talking about how the leadership board should interact with the platform team and try to scope people's comments to that.
And to be honest, the rules, I mean, the work that we're doing now, the rules, responsibilities, and scope, I think regardless of what organization, let's say the world decides to scrap the leadership board model, what we're working on is going to be as applicable to any other mechanism as this one. So
I agree.
I think we're operationalizing some good ideas. To what Neil was talking about, Angela asked me to kind of throw out to the leadership board. She was hoping to get the individuals on the leadership board to be a little more active in the OpenGov conversations that are occurring on Slack. Her thought is that because we are on the leadership board, we should be active, interested, and engaged in what's going on, and that we should have some individual contributions to the dialogue. So I promised her I would share those sentiments with you guys, just to articulate. Clearly, everyone can respond as to their individual time constraints and drives and motives, but that was my promise to her to articulate those. All right. That's all I got. So I'll get this posted. And I would imagine we want to collect again on. Let's keep it in mind, maybe an ad hoc for Wednesday, but let's just see how if you want to put a deadline on activity for ideas and comments, or should we just kind of let it hang out there for a while?
Deadlines are important.
Yes, they are. Yeah. The challenge is, Michael, is that we are on the OpGov side. We've had 3, maybe 4 folks. There's not a widespread body of participation at this point.
Sure.
And so I'm not sure if this is the relevant time, but there has been chit-chat about open recruitment, and I'm wondering, is that something we should take offline, or I know it's not a leadership board question, so it's more a question to you.
Didn't we talk about this in Saturday's meeting, or did I forget?
There was kind of bantering about it.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, the plan right now, you can check with Rajan, but I think the plan was that, so we are cleaning up the platform between now and whatever it was, November 6th.
Yeah. Okay.
Soft launch, and then like immediately after that our goal would be to start the next cohort.
Okay, cool. All right. I just don't know right now if we've got that critical mass, the bandwidth to actually do all this stuff. It's more of an anecdote.
I'm optimistic, and that is like I'm totally okay with like there being a month of us like picking up our. I mean, I think I'm probably a different story, but like the group picking up their lives a little bit after an incredible push for wisdom and to try. Like, I really don't want people to burn out long term. I think we need to continue making forward progress and have the sense of eventual success, but I really don't want to stress people out too much right now. So,
okay.
And believe me, I'll be the first person to stress people out. But yeah, I think we have another sort of 3 weeks or so before we want to finish the platform cleanup. And then, so we're going to launch signups sometime soon, I think, in the next week or two. because it'll take a couple weeks to get everyone together.
Are you going to do a targeted recruitment thing, or are you going to cast it out to the masses?
I don't really, you'd have to ask Roger what his current thinking is on this. I don't think there's been a final decision.
Okay. Might we be able to have a little bit of input on that?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I think the right place for this would probably be on Monday night's hangout, like the team hangout.
One recommendation, if you're working on governance, there is really interesting course on philosophy and justice from Harvard. I can send you guys the link, but I'm trying to like complete the assignments and stuff for that, but it's really makes you think about a lot of things that not only in crowdsourcing marketplace but also in the real world.
Cool.
Send the link.
Yeah, I'll send the link.
There's been a lot of theory of justice conversation in our house. Little John Rawls.
Yeah, it takes back to the history, like 100 years ago, and asks about some criminal cases, asks about social justice, raises the questions about gay marriage and all those things, and then tells the role of judiciary, government, and society along those dimensions. So,
cool. Share with the masses. Alrighty, folks, we're at 12:12. Seems like a nice time to shut down. Just got to throw it out there. Go Mets. They kicked off, so it's Mets Cubs.
All right.
So with that, I'm going to stop the broadcast. Thank you, everyone. I will put a deadline. We'll try to meet again next week, and we'll comment on the comments made by the crowd. And is it just this Monday that we're now going to pick up again, Michael, with the group milestones?
I'm not sure what your question is.
Our next group meeting, it's going to be on
Monday. Yeah, so we will have like an extra 2 days of leap year, basically, like over this weekend. So instead of having a hangout in 2 days on Saturday, we will meet that next Monday night.
On the 19th. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Yep.
All right. So with that, the broadcast is stopped. Everyone have